Last week, we had a conversation, and how many people were here for that? Yeah. And it was this conversation that started off with this idea or understanding. There comes a moment when you say, I'm ready. I'm ready to do something a little bit differently. And so we had that conversation, and when we talked about it, we talked about this idea of everything starts with you. So in other words, Spirit's not going to show up to you and demand that you do something and act a certain way or do anything else like that. That's not coming from Spirit. That's not the way Spirit works. That would be called your ego. And your ego is absolutely convinced it knows what you should be doing and will sit there and tell you on a repeated basis what you should be doing. More importantly, it will also tell you what you're not doing and why you should feel like you know what for not doing those things. How many people know what I'm talking about? Yes. So what do we do about that, right? And today I want to just talk about this idea of how one goes about living this new life that you're going to have once you make that kind of a decision. And we're going to spend a little bit of time on that. But before I forget, there was one thing I wanted to mention, and that was last week I talked about this decision, how for some people it could look like a simple prayer, very, very easily done. And for some people, they want to do a little bit more than that. In other words, they want to make it official. And so we talked about this idea of possibly some people wanting to get baptized. And I got sidetracked when I got done speaking, and I didn't get a chance to actually talk to very many of you. And I just wanted to let anybody that's interested know there is a sign-up sheet if that's something that you're wanting to do. And I will talk with you and we'll figure out how to make that happen for you. So it can be your own really beautiful little ceremony, whatever that looks like. So there's a sign-up sheet for those of you that are interested in case that's speaking to you. So having said that, we talk about this idea of this decision, and then we talk about, okay, then what? And I want to go back into the traditional unity teachings, and the fifth principle for unity. Unity has 5 principles, and in the 5th principle it says, knowing and understanding the laws of life are not enough. In other words, once you get into this stuff, knowing it is only the beginning of the process. A person must also live the truth that they know. And I really want to spend time this morning about that. Living the truth that you know. I have seen people that get involved in this work, and for them it becomes these mental gymnastics. And they want to learn this, and they want to learn that, and they want to learn about this, and they want to learn about that. And they spend their entire life going from one teaching to another teaching, from one book to another book, from one thing to another. And they spend their entire lives here, right here. And that's as far as it goes. So you want to talk to somebody like that, you can talk to them and they're brilliant. I mean, they are absolutely brilliant in terms of what they can share with you, what they can tell you about, all the different books, all the different things that they've done. All this wisdom is coming from them, and yet there's something that's missing. And that's because it's here and it's not here. That 1.5 feet is the longest journey you'll ever go on in your life. And that longest journey has to come down to this. And as long as I'm here speaking, as long as you come in and hear me, I'm going to tell you this every single time and remind you that God is an experience. Your divinity is an experience. It's not about being stuck in your head. It's about you actually having the experience of the divine living through you, which is what happens when you start living this life that I'm talking about. And so then it's like, oh, that's kind of different than what we've been taught traditionally, right? I thought it was cool if we just did a little of this, a little of that, a little of this, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. Again, there's no blame, shame, judgment, or guilt. We don't do that here. But what I'm talking about is to live the truth that you know. So then I think about it as I was preparing for the talk, and I said, why? Why do we want to live the truth that we know? And I'm asking each and every one of you right now, why do we want to do that? And I'm just going to open it up for anybody that would like to answer that question. Why do we want to live the truth that you know? Why? A deeper understanding of God. Thank you, Charles. Life is too short to do anything else. I love that. Anybody else? Come on, don't be shy, Deb.
To feel like you're being your authentic self.
To feel like you're being your authentic self. I love that. Yeah, beautiful.
Everything else.
To be in communion with everything else. Thank you. Beautiful. Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Yes. Because the practice is what brings you joy. Of course.
The connection brings you love.
Connection brings you love and life. Love that. Nice work, folks. Anybody else?
Yeah, the more you align your hearts, the more I think you can align what you came here to do originally. Trying to align, that's what I'm trying to do anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's with the alignment with the heart. So I'm, yes, and yes, from the standpoint that, for me anyways, my belief is that we're all an individual expression of God, and you are doing it perfectly. And when you can just show up and be authentically you and be in alignment with who and what you are, then you are living that expression, whatever that expression looks like. And they're all different. We're all different, right? So it can look completely different. It doesn't have to all be the same, right? Awesome. For me, what I would add to this is when I think about the practices, what does it allow me to do? And for me, it's about this idea of alignment. And it's about my vibration. You hear me talk about that a lot. And the reason I'm saying that is because with what I'm going to talk about today is about your vibration and is about your alignment with your divinity. And it is actually living in alignment and living at that level of vibration to where that becomes so sacred to you, like nothing else matters. And when I say that, I mean that obviously you got your life, you got your friends, you got your family, you got everything else like that. But you start to become very selfish with your own energy, and specifically your own vibration. Because what happens, my observation has been with me, is that when I live at the highest vibration I possibly can, I have access to, and I want you to hear this for a minute because this is Unity 101. When you're living in that high of a vibration, you have access to what's called the divine mind, or God, if you will. When your brain and your nervous system is calmed down and relaxed, you get information, or you get, I call them downloads. You can call them whatever you want to call them. You can call that a conversation with God. You can talk about it being a dream. You could call it downloads if you want to. But what happens is when you live your life that way, what's going to happen is you are directly connected to God. I'm not kidding you. That isn't just these words coming out of Mike's mouth. That is the experience that you're going to have if you keep doing these practices and keep doing what you're doing, is that you are directly connected to it, which means what? Which means information is flowing through you and you have access to, and you can literally are talking directly with spirit on a 24/7 basis. This doesn't just happen occasionally. When you're living at this high of a vibration, you have to understand you are connected with God. And you are able to have this communication ongoing to be a part of your life so that you can share your happiness, you can share your joy, you can share your tears, you can share everything with this thing and do this interaction and be in connection with it and get information on what to do, how to do, why to do, who to do. All the things that you want is happening on a moment by moment basis. You have that capacity. Each and every one of you has that capacity in you to do it right now. Every single one. You aren't missing anything, nothing in this moment as we stand here, and right now. You all have the ability to do that, but it takes some practice. Why? Because you got this thing going on inside of your head that's telling you everything but who and what you are, who and what God is. All these things happen. And let's just face it, we're not told this when we're kids. We don't have this understanding. So we grow up as a kid, and what do? We see people being people. Well, do we see people sitting down and praying and meditating and doing all the things in order to connect us with our divinity? No. So then we think, well, I'm just going to watch mom and dad, and look what mom and dad did. For some people, that was a beautiful example. For others, maybe not so much. And it's okay. But the point is that as a society and as a consciousness, we don't make this a priority. And my suggestion, my prod, and I'm going to prod you, and I'm going to poke you, and I'm going to drive you nuts. Every single time that you come in here and hear something, it's going to be to motivate you and inspire you to just consider the idea of that possibility that's within you and that you have access to it. But it doesn't happen overnight. You can't take the way that you've been going, the way that you've been living your life and going, yeah, I think I'm going to change that a little bit. That can't happen overnight. It takes a minute, and it takes some practices. And so Unity does have these 5 principles, and as I was preparing for this talk, I'm like, well, if there's 5 principles, and I was thinking about it, and I was just done teaching my class, or I'm getting ready to wrap up my class about discovering your path, what I've realized is how perfect that from a unity perspective, that there really is 5 foundational practices that, in my opinion, in my mind, should be done pretty much every single day. Because I know that's what I do, and I know that's what the Fillmores taught. My own belief is that's exactly what all the masters have done, Jesus, yes, and others, that have done the exact same thing. There's some version of this. And so as I talk about this, I just want to let you know a couple things as I talk about these practices. First of all, start slow, 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 slow. So as I go over these things, the tendency is some of you are going to get overwhelmed. I don't want you to get overwhelmed in any way, shape, or form. But what I do want to do is I want to say, these are the practices. And by the way, I'm not going to list them here, but there's way more. If I sat down there and said, give me a list, right now we could come up with about 50 different practices. I want the main ones. I want to talk to especially the people that are fairly new at this stuff. Well, what is it that I should be doing on a regular basis to kind of get me back into alignment? Because in my opinion, these ones are the basics. And so we could sit here and make a list. The other thing I want to tell you before I give you this list is I'm not going to sit there and tell you how to do these things, because you're going to see in a minute, there's a million ways to do each and every one of them. However, if you are looking for a basic routine, when you come out in the lobby, there's going to be a sheet of paper that says the 5 practices. And there's going to be a very, very simple practice for each of the ones that I'm going to talk about on that piece of paper, if you want to just get started. So don't get overwhelmed with these different practices. In my opinion, if you would do each of them for 2 or 3 minutes a day just to get it started, you will build on that. When I first started meditating, I literally did it for 2 to 3 minutes at a time, and then I built it up from there, and there's times now when I can do it for hours. Just like the same with the other practices that I'm going to talk about. Start slow. The key is consistency. That's the thing that's going to help you when you begin this process. All right. So, having said that, so what are the 5 practices? So let's start off with prayer, right? So in the Revealing Word, Fillmore says, prayer is not begging God to do something for us. It is the raising of our consciousness to the place where we can receive the omnipresent good that is always waiting to manifest. So that's how Unity believes. It's about connection. Now, I don't know about you, but the way I started praying was that my mom used to come into my bedroom when I was a little child, and she would say, let's pray. And I'm going to test you to see how many people know the prayer that my mom shared with me. How many people know it? It sounds something like this. I lay me down, soul to keep. If I die before I wake, I praise the Lord, my soul to take. That's it. Yeah, I had it. I've said it 9 gajillion times. But you know what's so funny about it is we listen, we laugh. Most of you know that prayer. And what's so fascinating about it to me is, like, I said that same prayer for years and years and years and years and years and years and years. I would say probably 4 or 5 years. And when you're 4 or 5 years old, that's a long time. Until one day, all of a sudden, I was like, you know what? If I was God, I would be getting really bored with the same old prayer, right? And that's when all of a sudden prayer changed for me. And all of a sudden, I quit believing or feeling like God was separate from me. And I just started talking to God like he was my buddy, like she was my buddy, and that we were together, and that ultimately that I was loved, and that all that I really wanted was the connection with this thing that was bigger than myself. And that's what happened with prayer. So for me, prayer is when we talk to or with God, the God of your understanding. It can be done out loud or in silence. It helps us align with God versus begging for whatever it is that you want. Because for some people, please, 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 please. And I'm not saying at times that you aren't saying, yo, I could use some help here, because that does happen, right? But there's a difference in the way that you approach it, right? It helps us cultivate faith and trust. Sorry for the typo. It helps us cultivate faith and trust, right? And it gives you an experience of your oneness with God, and you can do it quickly or it can take hours. So there's a lot of different ways that you can do prayer. There's a standard prayer, petitionary prayer. Hi, God, I was hoping for this, that, or the other thing. There's affirmative prayer. Unity, in case you don't know, has a beautiful prayer practice called affirmative prayer. Highly recommend it. It's very powerful and very beautiful. Contemplative prayer, there's a whole thing that people spend where they go into contemplative prayer, where they bring a thought or an idea into prayer and they recite it, and then they just sit in patience and listen to see what comes up. There's gratitude prayer. There's intercessory prayer, which is where you're praying for somebody else. So here's the thing. When it comes to prayer, that simple practice, there's a lot of different ways to do it. And if I talk to every single one of you, I would say, what's your favorite? And you would probably give me some version of one of those. I bet you there's 10 more that I don't even know about. It doesn't matter what the form is, just understand that. It's about your idea of connecting with God and spending time in communication with God and hanging out with God. That's all it is for me. And so what does that mean? I don't know. I could be driving down the car this morning and all of a sudden I hit a patch of ice on the road and it was like, oh God! Like it was like, whoa, right? Or it could be something as beautiful and simple of just waking up in the morning and see the sun coming through the trees and going, thank you, God. I'm just so grateful. I'm just so grateful. So it can be a number of ways that you can do it. And again, to me, what's most important about these practices isn't necessarily the how, it's the intention behind the practice. So remember that. You can get lost in these practices. Like, it's got to be perfect. It's got to be this. It's got to be that. It's got to be this. It's got to be that. And if I don't do it for this long, then that's going to mean, or I got to stop. Just stop it. Trust me when I tell you God does not care. God doesn't care. God's just happy that you all of a sudden acknowledge God and realize you're part of God and are wanting to hang out with God because God loves you a lot, right? So the second of the 5 practices is called meditation. A lot of you know about meditation. Myrtle said, be still and know. Turn your attention from the outer to the inner. That's meditation. You're going from the outer world, you're turning within. That still small voice that is not far off. It is within your own soul, right? And so when we think about meditation, it's when we listen. We're listening. Prayer is when we're talking to, hey God. Meditation is we're listening. We're turning inward versus outward. So we're shutting off all the outward noise. We're getting quiet. We're going within. We're listening to that still small voice within. It helps us strengthen our spiritual focus, and also it brings peace when practiced consistently. I cannot tell you how many studies I could have brought you and told you about, scientific studies on people that have a regular meditation practice and what it does for their nervous system. It is almost one of the best things you can to regulate your nervous system when you have a consistent meditation practice. So then the question is, all right, great. Well, what did meditation look like when you first started it, Mike? Because there's a million different ways to do it. There's silent meditation, contemplative meditation, mindfulness meditation, guided meditation, and affirmative meditation. And now everybody's going like, oh, which one? Breathe. Just breathe. There's a lot of, the thing that's cool about this day and age is there's so many things that can help you with meditation. So there's a million different ways to do it, but I'm going to show you what it looked like for me when I first got started. So what did it look like for me? How about if I do this? How about if I take this for just a second, and I would sit down, and I would light a candle, and I would breathe, and I would become silent. And that's the way I started to meditate. And it went from being a minute or two to eventually, like I've been in meditation for hours before, so it just depends on what the situation is. Don't complicate it. You don't have to complicate it. What are you trying to do? You're trying to just slow everything down. And by the way, do you have to start doing meditation that way? No. Some people think, well, no, you got to sit down and you got to cross your legs and you got to have your fingers at the points and you've got to take 10 deep breaths in and out. Just stop. It's just you sitting down and going, hey, I'm just going to get quiet and I'm going to shut my mouth and try to slow everything down and I'm just going to be with God for a few minutes. And I'm going to try to listen to see what God has to say, because I'll bet you God's got some pretty good stuff for me, and I just don't slow down enough to listen to God. So I think that's what I'm going to do. And so what can that look like? A million things. There's walking meditations. Go walk. You could do it when you're in the middle of doing yoga. How many people meditate while they're doing stretches in yoga? Yeah, there's a million different ways to do it. Some people love it listening to music. There's a million different ways. There's not one way. We are all wired differently. For some people, that wouldn't work. Why? Because their brains are going, dee. They got monkey mind, and they can't slow it down. And so for them, maybe just taking a walk out in the forest is exactly what they need to do to meditate and be one with God. So you have a way that you can do it. Find your way. Find your way, right? Oh, movement meditation. Yeah, I forgot that one. The third one, gratitude. Charles says, gratitude is a great mind magnet, and when it is expressed from a spiritual standpoint, it is powerfully augmented. And what I would say is gratitude is more than just saying thank you. It's a spiritual practice that opens your heart. It opens your heart. It expands awareness and tunes your mind to the frequency of divine abundance. I don't know, but to me, gratitude is, I really feel like the divine, one of the frequencies in as God is gratitude. And so when I practice gratitude, there's something about it for me energetically that happens where I just feel like I'm connecting with God. Like just being so grateful for everything in my life. And I'm not just grateful for the good things. I'm grateful for everything. Everything. So I bring gratitude is a huge, huge, huge practice, right? And so gratitude will shift you from fear to faith. You know, you literally can't be in both at the same time. You can't be in fear and faith at the same time. You're either one or the other. There is no, and sit down and try and do it. Try and be in both places at the same time and let me know how that works. It's not, by the way, energetically. So it's one or the other. You don't get both. You're acknowledging the presence of God. It opens the flow of good. It heals your heart and rewires your brain. Yes, having a gratitude practice, again, like meditation, all the studies that have been done, that when you practice just a few minutes of gratitude every single day, things start to get rewired in your brain. It helps us remind us of who we are. And so for me, gratitude honestly has always been a big part of my life, and it's even more of a big part of my life now as I go deeper into my own spiritual understanding and awareness. Why? Because gratitude is one of the fastest ways to shift me from being in a to feeling good. Gratitude, man, just be thankful. What's going on? Well, I'm having a lousy moment. Oh, cool. Thanks, God, for this moment. I'm not sure what's here for me. I'm sure there's something inside of it I can't just see, but thanks for this moment. I really appreciate that. And then I take it from that to the simplest of things. Every single day when I get out of bed, I swear the first thing I do, when I wake up, the first thought that comes through my mind is gratitude. And I start giving thanks for just a minute or two. I promise you, if you will do that at the beginning of your day, watch what happens energetically to you, how it starts your day. It will change you. And then the other thing that I like to do is at night, I like to do the same thing before I go to bed. I sit there and I think, wow, look at all the cool stuff that happened today. Look at all the people I got to meet. Look at all the stuff I got to do. Look at what I got to create. It's just a part of who and what I am, right? Forgiveness, we don't spend enough time talking about this. You should forgive, and that should be a part of your daily routine as well, right? Charles said the law of forgiveness is a mighty solvent for error thoughts. When you forgive yourself and others, you erase the mental and emotional conditions that keep you bound. That doesn't sound too bad. I don't know about you, but I think I want some more of that. Letting go of the stuff that's freezing me and keeping me held hostage because I'm not willing to forgive a person, a place, or a thing, or a political party, or whatever, right? We don't forgive. And so when we don't forgive, guess what happens? There you are. Question, how does that feel? Does that feel good? And don't take me wrong, I'm not going to kid you. Sometimes that's okay, right? But I'm just saying, in general, though, when I start thinking about my own vibration, when I start thinking about being in line with my divinity, that doesn't work anymore for me. And so I myself am learning how to let go more and more and more and forgive more and more and more and more, right? So forgiveness, it's about releasing the hold it has on you, right? It's a spiritual act of freeing your own heart. When we withhold forgiveness, we keep ourselves tied to the past. You're not keeping anybody else held there. You're the one that's being held there. Do you want to be held in the past? It's a simple question. And if you do, that's cool. But if you don't, you might want to try forgiveness, right? When we release it, we open the door to peace, healing, and new possibilities. When we don't, then we're stuck. That's where we're at, right? Fillmore said, this is a long one, if you would be free from all limitations and enter into the consciousness of the Spirit of God, you must forgive everybody for everything. Begin right now to forgive. Spend the last 30 minutes of every day in forgiving everyone you think has injured you. Make a list of all those who have hurt you and mentally or verbally go over the list and say the following. I fully and freely forgive you. Do not go to sleep until you've released all the unforgiveness from your heart. Yeah. So when you think about forgiveness, it's like, well, I'm not exactly sure how to do that. And again, there's a lot of different examples. There's a sheet in the back that has just a quick little thing about it. But forgiveness is absolutely huge. And by the way, who do we probably need to forgive the most? We are brutal. And the reason we're brutal against ourselves is because we have this thing called an ego. And the ego wants to keep you stuck exactly where you are. It doesn't want you to move. It's very comfortable with exactly where you're at right in this moment. And so what it tries to do is it tries to keep you there and keep you stuck. And then, so therefore what happens is it doesn't want you to forgive. It doesn't, especially yourself. I mean, my God, look at what you've done. Each and every one of you, you should look at what you've done. You should feel bad about it. You should feel guilty about it, right? No. Here's the truth. The truth is you're a human being, and like everybody else, you're trying to figure it out, and that we've all made mistakes, and that we're all trying to move forward and get past those mistakes. That's the truth. And when all of a sudden you can look at yourself like that, and have a little bit of compassion, have a little bit of grace to yourself, then guess what you get to offer other people? Compassion, grace, forgiveness, love. All the things. All the things. Right? The last one is a Unity classic, but it's honestly for anybody who's trying to do something a little bit different in their life. Whether if you're trying to create something, like we're talking about with the workshop, or whether there's something that's going on in your life that you're wanting to change. Like maybe there's a health condition, or there's a relationship condition, or there's something else that's going on, and you're like, I really need some help with this. And that's what affirmations and denials are for. And so Charles says, denials and affirmations are the two movements of the mind that balance each other out. By denial, we break down the error. By affirmation, we build up the truth. So here's the thing, folks. In your subconscious mind, you've got these things that are going on inside of your head. In a lot of cases, you don't even know they're there. And because they are running about 95% of your life, you're doing things that you don't even know why you're doing them. And what I'm going to tell you is underneath all of them is a belief system. And so when we start talking about affirmations and denials, we're talking about literally changing your beliefs. That's what this is all about. So again, denials, I love this. Denial, think of a denial as cleaning the weeds. So in Myrtle's case, wasn't it, when she said denial, she said what? I'm a child of God, therefore I don't inherit sickness. That was her denial. I don't inherit sickness, right? The affirmation plants the garden. They're the new seeds. They're the new thoughts that you want to start taking place. So Myrtle wanted to start to believe she was a child of God, right? That's what she said. I'm a child of God, therefore I don't inherit sickness. They're the primary tools we use to create our dreamed of reality. Oh, so you mean to tell me there's things that I can do that will help me manifest what I want in my life? And the answer is, you betcha. You betcha. They help you reprogram outdated beliefs that no longer serve you. How many people might have one or two beliefs that don't serve you and you want to change? If you're not raising your hand, you're either sleeping or I don't know where you're at. You're an alien from another planet, decided you didn't have anything better to do, so you came and stopped by to see us this morning. I'm just saying, they help you reprogram the outdated beliefs that serve you. And I'm just going to share this with you, that many of you know that I've been doing this for a long time. And I'm just telling you, it never stops. I never stop finding limited beliefs and just garbage that I've got stuck way in the back corners of my subconscious mind that all of a sudden I'm going like, where did that come from? And how long has that been here? The biggest thing I want to tell you, it's a process. But when you begin doing this work and you start using things like affirmations and denials, and by the way, I've said this all the time, there are other ways to do it other than using affirmations and denials. In my opinion, what's happened is humanity has gotten, this is the 1.0 version, there's a 2.0 version that's out there. If you want to talk about it, come see me and I'll share some thoughts with you, but there's definitely a 2.0 version out there. But this one works. And it's the one that Myrtle used to change and the stuff that I've been talking about for the last long time. They help you align with spiritual truths instead of appearances, which is beautiful because when you start changing your world, you walk around and you start using affirmations and your world looks like anything but what you're trying to affirm, right? When I started using affirmations, my affirmation was, I'm going to be a millionaire by the time I'm 25. That was my affirmation, right? I was 19 at the time when I really started hammering them. And let me just say that that didn't exactly work out, but there was reasons for it. And I can tell you the reasons for it was because every single time I said I'm going to be a millionaire by the time I'm 25, guess what was right behind that thought? No, you're not. You've never figured it out. You've never done this before. What, are you crazy for thinking that? And I could sit here for another 10 minutes and tell you all the other thoughts that were going on as I was trying to affirm that I was going to be a millionaire by the time I'm 25. I didn't fully understand denials and how they worked. I didn't understand energetically that what was going on is inside of me. My subconscious mind had this belief that I was pretty useless. And so my there was this battle that was going on between this new thought, I want to be a millionaire by the time I'm 25, and me being me and growing up in the environment that I grew up in and had some pretty strong beliefs about who I was, or more importantly, who I wasn't. And then all of a sudden I stand up and go, bro, here I am. I'm going to be a millionaire by the time I'm 25 years old. And my subconscious mind's like, yeah, give me a break. Guess who won? My subconscious mind. Why? Because I didn't understand what was going on. I didn't know what to do about it. Affirmations and denials, the denial is actually where you're standing up to whatever the old beliefs were and going, homie ain't playing that game anymore. We're not playing it. And that's what it took. It took me standing into my power, into my strength, and going, we're not doing that anymore. And ultimately, all of these tools, that's what's happening, folks, is you're standing into your true power and into your divinity. And there's going to be a minute or two where you need to stand up, look something right between the eyes and saying, we're not doing that anymore. That's not what it's about. That's not what I'm wanting anymore. Thank you very much. Goodbye. Bye-bye. Right? And that's what it is. And that's when you start playing this game and using these tools, right? And so when I think about this, I mention these tools that you use, but I really would like you to have just a little bit of experience of each and every one of them.